Welcome to the Plant-Centered and Thriving podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Kitchens. Welcome to the show, Plant-Centered listener. My name is Ashley, and I am your host today. And today I have two special guests with us today, an interview that I found incredibly fascinating. We talk about infertility and what you can do to take a food-first approach to your fertility plan to improve your odds and shorten your time to get pregnant. This was an amazing conversation. You know, infertility can stem from a number of challenges: PCOS, endometriosis, fibroids, egg quality, low sperm count, and so much more. But one thing that we talk about is how diet can impact all of these conditions and how making some small shifts in diet and in other parts of your life can have a huge impact. These two guests are incredibly knowledgeable about this subject, and it was neat to learn how it impacts fertility, but also too, just in general, how it impacts sort of your overall health, because we talk about that as well. So let me introduce our two guests, and then we are going to dive into this amazing conversation. Our first guest is with Judy Simon. She is an award-winning registered dietitian nutritionist who specializes in reproductive health. She is the founder of Mind Body Nutrition, PLLC, and a clinical instructor at the University of Washington. Judy's expertise includes fertility, PCOS, eating disorders, weight-inclusive medicine, and reproductive health. Judy has held leadership roles in the American Society of Reproductive Medicine Nutrition Special Interest Group and is a fellow of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. Judy integrates mindfulness, intuitive eating, eating competence, while taking a non-judgmental, inclusive approach to help people have a healthier, more fertile life. Judy is the co-founder of Food for Fertility program and co-author of the upcoming April 2024 book, Getting to Baby, a Food First Fertility Plan to Improve Your Odds and Shorten Your Time to Pregnancy, which we talk about. And then her lovely co-author and presenter is Dr. Angela Thayer. She is a medical doctor who loves helping women discover the joy of food to improve their health. She is triple board certified in reproductive endocrinology and infertility, OBGYN, and lifestyle medicine. She completed her undergraduate education at Duke University, medical school at the University of Cincinnati College of Medicine, residency at Oregon Health and Science University, and fellowship at the University of Texas Science Center at San Antonio. She and Judy Simon created the Food for Fertility program and have co-authored a book coming out, like I said, in 2024, April 9th. Dr. Thayer is also a plant-based chef and is currently studying behavioral science at the London School of Economics, learning new skills to advance health and happiness. These two are an amazing dynamic duo. Oh my goodness, this podcast, this episode is full of invaluable information, and I cannot wait for you to listen to it. Please join me in welcoming to the show Judy and Angela. Judy, Angela, thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm so excited to talk to you both today.
Thanks, Ashley. We're excited to be here.
Yes.
Thank you. We love food and plants, so we're so excited to be here.
Perfect combination. Good. So I would love to start with kind of just a simply speaking question on how significant is the link between nutrition and fertility? If you both kind of want to touch on that. Angela, if you want to go first, that would be great.
Sure. I think it's there. Sometimes people don't really recognize it, but we know that people who, eat really well and get lots of nutrients from diets and are in an optimum state of health have better fertility. And if their diet is lacking, I mean, you see this in the most dramatic cases, in cases of starvation and things, when the hypothalamus can be suppressed in high stress, if you're not getting enough calories, if you're not meeting your energy needs, your reproduction is going to be compromised on both egg and sperm.
Yeah. And to tail on to what Angela said is, because we've worked with our patients, with many men and women over time, we get to see the difference. We get to see them when they come back a few weeks later, whether they're in one of our cooking classes or we're seeing them one-on-one, and they're like, wow, I up that fiber and I feel good, or my cycle's getting regulated. So they start to see the benefits even before they're pregnant, which is really wonderful because who doesn't want to feel better?
Right, absolutely. Yes. Feeling better is such a big part of this journey, I'm sure, as you see in the patients and the clients that you work with. One thing I love about your book, the subtitle says a food first fertility plan to improve your odds and shorten your time to pregnancy. I'm curious, what does, Judy, you can start, what does a food first approach to fertility sort of entail? Or how would you describe that?
Great. And the reason we came up with that chapter, because we had to talk about supplements a little bit in the book, because people are curious and they want to know, will they make a difference? But we really want to say, wait, hold on. Food needs to come first. Supplement, right? So we wanted food to come first. And that's where we, although everyone's needs can be a little bit different, we came up with the idea of the fertility plate, similar to, USDA has a plate. But really, what's unique about our plate is we actually like, I asked Angela, shouldn't we have like a slice of bread? She goes, oh, no, no. We're going to put wheat on here because we want to show them where is that food coming. And we want them, when they think about grains, to think about what works for them, but the least processed. Like, yeah, go ahead and, try out farro and spelt and different grains that we have a whole chapter on that we really wanted them to get back to realizing what is food that isn't, ultra processed, without being too preachy or anything. So we're like, whenever people tell me like they're taking a magnesium supplement, they don't even know why they're taking them half the time. They go, oh, I heard it's really good for you and it's a really important mineral. And I'm like, did you know seeds, nuts, and whole grains not only have magnesium, they have lots of minerals that you need. So you're honestly doing a better job if you can try to get most of those micronutrients from your diet, because they come along with so many other benefits. That magnesium supplement doesn't have any fiber, right? And it might not be the right form that you can absorb the best. So we're really trying to show that, foods really do have most of what you need, and supplement should supplement. So that's kind of why we put a lot of emphasis. And we really said we're going to be bare bones when we talk about supplements.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. And Angela, I'm curious kind of your perspective on how maybe this food first approach differs from maybe like conventional treatments or approaches.
Well, it certainly complements everything, right? So, I mean, a lot of people are going to get pregnant naturally, easily, with no problems at all. And what happens, what I see in the fertility space is as women and men get older, certain things don't work as well. The mitochondria don't work as well with cell division. And so things, anything you can do to strengthen the functioning of our cells, our sperm or eggs, the implantation into the endometrium. So things like antioxidants, which you can get from food or you can get from supplements, right? The food is where it's at, in a sense that we have seen time and time again that food works better than supplements. And sometimes people think, oh, I probably need to take some antioxidants. But the data isn't nearly as strong. It's harder, you cannot really see the same data from studying supplement intake and vitamin intake as you do from eating real whole foods. And especially, we start with like fruits and vegetables. So where most of the antioxidants are in the vegetables, and just emphasizing that we know that most people aren't getting enough. And so starting there seems just like an easy ask, like just add more vegetables, just
Mhm.
add maybe another serving of fruits, trying to get those natural antioxidants, which we know are going to work better to strengthen the action of the mitochondria, that can help those cell division so processes, which is really important both for initial conception, but then maintaining the pregnancy and reducing miscarriage risk.
Oh yeah, wow. So really kind of instead of people having them like shift their diets overnight or completely, it's sort of like this gradual approach like okay, what can we add to sort of
Mhm.
like just make this diet overall more well-rounded and to support your journey as you're going through this?
Yeah, and I like to share, if it's okay. I've worked with some couples over the past year that they're very honest. They're, Pacific Northwest techies. They work a lot. They work hard, play hard, and they're like, you know what? We don't cook. We just don't cook. And they would say, okay, this is where I eat. what should we do? We're trying to get pregnant. We might have to do IVF, in vitro fertilization. And so I worked with them. I didn't judge them. And then we really figured out at each place that they would eat or pick up what vegetables or whole grains, what could they add to what they were eating? And, I heard from them a few months later, hey, we didn't have to do the IVF. I got pregnant, with the lifestyle changes, with adding, more plant-based foods to my diet. And then they came back and saw me when they were pregnant, and said, hey, help me out so I can keep this up during pregnancy. And as you know, Ashley, as a dietitian, like more than half the women are not eating adequate fruits and vegetables going into pregnancy, right? And we have data now that shows at the time of conception, what you're eating can help reduce risk of adverse outcomes of pregnancy. So less gestational diabetes, less preeclampsia, hypertension, preterm, deliveries. So we try to say this isn't helpful just for getting pregnant, reducing miscarriage loss, and having the healthy pregnancy. And then, of course, those intergenerational benefits that your baby gets because you've been providing them with all the nutrients they need. So it kind of feels really good what you're passing on for the next generation.
Absolutely. We love hearing success stories, client success stories on this show too. So
we do.
Any more you want to throw in? So I know you have lots of them. There were some great ones in the book too. And if we want to touch on those, we definitely can, because those were just so fun to read. And I think it just energizes people to want to, just kind of keep going on this journey as well. I'm kind of curious too, what are maybe some common misconceptions that you see about food and fertility when you're working with clients? Is there anything that, something that you just kind of see pop up pretty often?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, probably the most common is, people who are trying to go low carb, or they're really focused on protein, and they might not know the best plant sources of protein. So I find that that's, we're always trying to talk about lentils and beans and tofu and tempeh and edamame and great sources. And then we're talking about how whole grains are so different from processed grains. And I'm fine if people don't want to eat processed grains. I mean, believe me, but I really don't want people to cut out whole grains, because whole grains offer so many benefits. And those are all carbs, and fruits and vegetables are all carbs, and beans and lentils have carbs. So, I mean, all these things have carbohydrates. And to go low carbohydrate on a diet is passing up the main fuel source your body and brain needs, is glucose, right? You don't want to be running on ketones if you're trying to get pregnant. You don't want to be doing intermittent fasting if you're trying to be pregnant. So, I mean, to me, those are kind of, sometimes people come in having seen stuff online or through social media that somebody might have done, and it might have worked for them, but it generally isn't following the best principles we know for health and nutrition. And those are some of the biggest myths I've seen.
Yeah, and I think to add to Angela is, so often I have to spend the first 10 minutes listening to someone saying, well, I've already cut out gluten, dairy, grains. Like, they have this whole list. Soy is evil. And I listen and acknowledge, and they're not pregnant. And I said, well, would you be interested in hearing the current research? Because, you never want to make anyone feel bad, because they did it with good intentions, but they're so relieved. They're like, oh my gosh, I can eat grains. I'm like, absolutely. And what can I have? And that soy myth just won't die, And so we really talk about, all the benefits. Especially, we see a lot of women with polycystic ovarian syndrome, PCOS, and we have so much data that it actually improves all their biomarkers. It improves their lipids and their blood sugars, So really working with a lot of those myths that are out there, and they're just stressing people out. They're really stressing people out. And I always like to share the Fertinut study for men, where they did actually a randomized controlled trial, and all they told these guys to do was eat 60 grams of nuts a day. I think it was 12 to 14 weeks. They checked their semen parameters, their sperm parameters before and afterwards, and they all improved. And I'm sure it was from all the selenium, magnesium, zinc, all those nutrients, monounsaturated fats, all that good stuff they got from nuts. So a lot of times we just see the women and we barely get to scratch the surface on their partners a lot if they have male partners. And so I'm always like, okay, I want you to have a handful of seeds and nuts every day and make sure your partner, who's ever sharing sperm should be doing the same thing. That's an easy thing that they can do. So when I think people hear that, they're like, oh, okay, that's not so hard. I like nuts. I could do that, right?
Absolutely. Yes. Nuts are delicious. And they're, like you said, they're packed with nutrients too, which is a benefit. I'm curious too, for someone who comes to you and they are vegan or plant based or very, very plant forward, how do you approach to make sure that they are eating a well rounded plant based diet? And not just that, but I know that you do touch on supplements in the book as well, just kind of like filling in the gaps if needed.
Sure. And I do see a lot of folks that are really vegan by choice or for religious reasons quite often. They follow a vegan practice. So I never assume anything. So I'm like, share with me what a typical day looks like. And then I kind of go back and fill in. And, I ask them if they're taking a supplement, if we can review that. And then I ask if they've had any lab work because some people have had a recent lab work. And some of the things that we look at is we look at if they have had a B12 level drawn, maybe within that last year, or have they had a history ever of a B12 deficiency? Because that is one that we want to make sure. It's a little more challenging, unless they're eating a lot of tempeh to make sure they're getting enough, B12. So or maybe nutritional yeast. So talking to them about having adequate B12, which is in really most prenatals, and there are vegan prenatals available, right? And then the other nutrient that maybe if you really were very careful is choline, choline. And choline's a tricky one because even for non-vegetarians, 90% of women are low in choline going into their pregnancy. And it's kind of a supplement that I've been told is kind of bulky. So it's hard to put much of it into a prenatal unless you're taking like 8, which most people don't want. And it's found in plant sources, but it's more concentrated in animal sources. So what I do is I talk to them about what are some of the plant sources. I actually work in my office suite with a vegan doctor. We had a whole discussion on this because she's like, what? I didn't know about this choline thing. And I did show her how much they have, but honestly, just to be safe, if someone's trying to conceive, I would recommend a vegan source, a choline supplement. And we mentioned that in the book, the B12 and choline, and then all the other supplements that we would recommend for any woman trying to get pregnant, iron, iodine, and folic acid. Those are really the biggies. And if they live somewhere where there isn't a lot of sun, like where we live in the Pacific Northwest, vitamin D does play an important role with helping, with fertility. We may recommend a vegan, which are readily available, vegan vitamin D source. But again, we would recommend that to everyone. Yeah, Angela, can you think of any other ones that you might want to add in?
Yeah. I mean, the only other one I'd add is, for omega-3s,
Oh
depending
yeah.
on, how much they're getting from nuts and ALA,
Mhm,
the ALA
mhm,
conversion to DHA isn't
mhm.
as much as maybe you'd like. And so a lot of people might want to take a DHA EPA supplement, and you can get that from algae. So a lot of people think it's fish based and you can only get it from fish, but it's because fish eat the algae.
Yep.
So you can
Mhm,
get vegan sources of, specifically DHA is the one we want more of. So I usually recommend a DHA
mhm.
vegan supplement
Thank you.
if somebody's, trying to get pregnant through pregnancy.
Yeah, thanks for adding that one because you do get some from nuts, but like she said, the conversion. And just to make sure, I'm really big about talking about endocrine disruptors, like really checking in with people, like just how they handle their food. Are they microwaving their leftovers in a plastic container? And I can talk to them like, hey, let's use glass, let's use ceramic, let's reduce our exposure to bisphenol A. I don't want to, scare people when it comes to talking about. So we talk about the ones that you can easily reduce your risk from. And BPA, we said, okay, if you can cook your beans from scratch, great. If you already have some canned, rinse them off, like trying to be very practical. And then with phthalates, being able to say, look at your cleaning products and go really simple. Stay away from the perfumed and the scented ones. And then if you can give them idea how they can actually use baking soda and vinegar and a lot of things that are much less, toxic and dangerous. So those endocrine disruptors have a short half-life. So I love being able to ask them a few questions and, hey, this is going to be helpful. And they feel like they've done something.
Yes, I think it's wonderful.
And I'm going to turn over to Angela because she loves boosters and disruptors.
I do. For boosters, one of the other ones we talk about is stress, right? Which does stress contribute to infertility? Does infertility contribute to stress? Yeah, I think with all of the technology and things we have today, cycle tracking, people just experience these huge ups and downs, these highs and lows every month if you get your period and you're not pregnant. And how you deal with that stress, not to mention just day to day stress, is so important. And the way, our gut it has all of these neuroendocrine, the gut mind brain connection, right? So these things all feed back to each other. And so at more stress can actually change the way we eat. You can crave comfort foods when you're stressed. So you might go, eat differently. But so I think recognizing stress is present for most people. And then what outlets do you have that make you feel good? So it might be moving more. It might be going for a walk in nature. I think nature's great, being outside for some certain period of time every day if you can. And then some people like journaling or just 10 minutes of meditation, a great meditation practice. Being mindful is really helpful. So any of those I think can be really helpful. They're hard to measure, like the direct impact on fertility, but I think it is just key to living is to have some of those good, healthy outlets to help you manage stress. And then for disruptors, I think the one I would bring up is alcohol, which is so common in our society. And a lot of people who don't drink much, but drink a little bit, don't really think it's affecting fertility, perhaps, but it could be. And so there is data, especially for people who are in the IVF field or where they've studied this in fertility clinics, where drinking alcohol, the month before an IVF cycle, even, or during the IVF cycle, or the patient or the partner, either one, it can all decrease success rates and embryo quality. And so if somebody asked, well, I will always say the safest answer is to abstain completely from alcohol if you're trying to conceive, just because alcohol doesn't really have any nutritional benefit. It is, frequently used in social situations. And so I think now too, there is more of an emphasis on not drinking alcohol. There's like a new market, right? So a lot of people are exploring non-alcoholic drinks and being out with friends. And so I think that also is helping us because it's becoming more socially acceptable to not drink alcohol when you're out with friends. And I think that we should embrace that trend.
I agree. I think a lot of people listening will agree as well that we like these non-alcoholic bars popping up, and it just being more quote socially acceptable. So I'm glad that you brought that up because I do think it's really important. So I'm curious, each of you, if you have sort of just like one small piece of advice, which this book is packed with advice, and I will say it's attainable advice. I feel like it's things that people can actually do versus like it being militant or like you have to like check all these boxes. So I really appreciated that about the book. But if you both have sort of a piece of advice that you would give for a listener who maybe is just kind of starting to make this connection between their diet and their fertility journey.
So I think the key to success and building a sustainable habit, healthy lifestyle is don't try to do everything all at once. Like that just seems to me, I've seen more people who get despondent and depressed when things don't all just fall into place immediately. And that's why we really emphasize cooking learning to cook at home or learning other methods, like what are shortcuts? Because it seems to be everybody's time is so valuable. So what little steps can you take on a regular basis every week to add, to enhance and benefit your health and fertility? So that's like my nice take home.
I would add to support. When people read the book, we want them to feel like, okay, some of this, what resonates with me, kind of I hope they read that some of the things they're doing are really positive, like, yay, I got this down. Now I'm going to try beans, but ask for support. If you're single, maybe you want to cook with a friend sometime or a family member or a partner. Don't feel like you have to make all the changes. I have one couple, I love this. They do a cooking date night now. They plan on the weekend. And then instead of like, often it's the female who's the one who's cooking, they cook it like a date night and they go, darn it, we're going to make this fertility thing fun. We're going to make it with like candles and a yummy meal and make it really special because we don't know the day that we're going to get pregnant and we have to go on with our life. So I think asking friends or family for support. I know, with our book coming out, my friends are, many of them are becoming grandparents. So they're almost like, hey, well, if my kid brings it up that, I have friends that are buying them for their kids. And I'm like, okay, make sure they want your support, but if they want your support, how cool is that? Adding more recipes or including things at family gatherings that are going to be really nourishing instead of just saying, oh, it's going to be heavy appetizers and heavy sweets, really saying, hey, where's the plant food? Where's all that good stuff? If you want grandchildren, let's feed them, right? So that's kind of where my generation is at. Absolutely.
Right. And I think, food should be fun. And that's the
Mhm.
other thing. I think we want people it's not drudgery. We don't know.
Mhm.
I mean, we want people to, enjoy food and have joy in food and cooking and sharing a meal with friends or someone special and experimenting with new flavors and spices
Mhm.
and just taking that time to be curious and creative in the kitchen, I think is a great thing to look forward to. And it gets people excited.
So the book comes out tomorrow, April 9th, which is so exciting. I know that you can pre-order it right now, but if people do end up catching this episode after April 8th, where is the best place for them to grab your book?
All the biggies and many of the small independent ones. So absolutely pre-order. It'll come right to your door. You'll be cooking out of it before you know it. And we're excited for you to share your stories. And we really hope your listeners enjoy. I think we have 11 stories of women have gone through our Food for Fertility program on their journeys. And they still make me cry, some of them, because it's just, some of them have 3 kids now. So it's really, really exciting to see where they've been and how a way that food has played a role for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know so many listeners can agree that just food plays such an important role in so many things. So I love that we're
Mhm.
talking about fertility because we haven't talked about that on the
Yes.
podcast yet. So
Oh, good.
yeah. And I
Great.
like too, because you also include like a blueprint, sort of like a 6-week guide, which is kind of nice as well for someone who's really just getting started. So there's a lot of information in here. But if people want to go above and beyond and connect with both of y'all, where is the best place for them to do that?
You can follow me at Fertile Nutrition on Instagram, and I have a website, mindbodynutrition.com too.
Yes. And mine's Angela Thayer, MD on Instagram, or same name for my website.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, again, thank you both for coming on and just sharing just this invaluable information when it comes to people's fertility journeys.
Thank you
Great.
so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks, Ashley.
You're welcome. Thank you again.
Okay.
Until next time, keep thriving.